sky. Sending ducks.
Hurry, main squadron.
Does the color of the sky mean anything special to you? It does to me. A hell of a lot.
And welcome back, guys, to Leo Gaming. Yes, today is a review on Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown in 2021. I had to eventually do a review on this game as I am a fighter jet fanatic. Me and my old man would go to, in the UK, before COVID, we would go what we call ourselves air show season. We'd go to about 5 or 6 different air shows throughout the air show season, especially the big ones, Farnborough, Fairford. Used to be Mildenhall years ago, but that's stopped now. Anyway, rattling on about my love for fighter jets. Top Gun is also my favourite film, and I can't wait for the second. Anyway, got off the subject, but moving back to this, without further ado, let's get straight on to this review. Ace Combat 7 Skies Unknown is an arcade-style combat flight simulation developed and published by Bandai Namco Entertainment and was released in January 2019. You are set in the fictional setting of Strangeril, where a war has broken out between the Kingdom of Eurasia and the Eusian continent. A space elevator was built before in order to maintain peace, but that means nothing now. As an Ocean fighter pilot, call sign Trigger, you must fly on the edge of your seat in order to save what little loyalty there is in these lands. So let's start off with the visuals first, guys. I must say, for a combat jet flight game, the visuals are absolutely stunning from up high. You can get some really great photo shots of the jets, and the jets themselves are modelled absolutely beautifully and are true to life. You will be flying across oceans, mountains, city areas, jungle areas, desert areas. Now, you can understand you've got a variation of environments to fly across, because at the end of the day, most of their, the detail on the ground level doesn't have to be that high, so they could concentrate more on the views from up above. I will admit, when you get close to the ground, the textures do start to distort. The ground and the grass textures start to distort a little bit. The buildings and models are still detailed, but the actual ground itself starts to distort a little bit. The explosions, they look better than previous games when you shoot ground or air targets. When you shoot an air target, you get more debris that sort of scatters about, and it feels a lot better, feels a lot more satisfying. With the ground targets now, when you bomb the ground targets, you get a much longer smoke trail. Like in real life, when somewhere gets bombed, you got a smoke that's bellowing out and into the air for some time. No longer does that just stop after a few seconds. It now continues for most of the combat scenario that you're in, so you can still see targets that you've bombed previously from the smoke trails that are going into the air. Now, moving on to the sound, guys, I would say that the music soundtrack to the game is very good. It really has that motivational feel to it, especially as you're sort of flying towards your target. It has that sort of bum 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 sort of feel to it, that sort of, pump yourself up feel. The sound effects are absolutely great, and they're immersive. There are a couple of downfalls to the sound, which are, one of them is a major one for me. The other one is not so major, but for the major one, fighter jet enthusiasts will understand what I'm saying when I say this. So we'll start off with the first one. So whilst flying and in combat, I just find there's too much chatter from other pilots and the mission directors. There's too much to-in and fro-in from other pilots, waffling on about stuff that doesn't need to be said. There's too much conversation going on from mission directors to other pilots. I just feel like I'm missing out on a lot of the story parts, whereas what I'm trying to do is focus on the bogey the enemy I'm trying to chase down and manoeuvre into place to fire a missile. I just find there's too much chit-chat that is not needed during flight and combat. I do feel like they could have cut a lot of that out and saved the chit-chat until absolutely necessary. Right, the major one is when, well, they've got the sound right of the planes when the plane is cruising. Right, so the whole this major one is the sound of the planes. Now they've got the sound of the planes right when you're cruising, but where is the roar of the plane? Now any fighter jet enthusiast, airshow regular will know exactly what I mean when I say there is no roar on these planes. It is absolutely rather pathetic. I mean, to be honest, even when you flick your afterburners on and you're going full pelt during mid-flight, there is no roar. On takeoff, there is no roar. That intro I did, where the bit where the plane takes off, I had to add that engine roar into that as a sound effects, because it just doesn't. This game does not portray the roar and the sheer power of these planes in terms of the sound when you hit the afterburners on. It doesn't portray it at all. Even in the replays, I know it's only a replay, but I tried to test it on the replay. So I removed the radio chatter, I removed the music, and the sound is still crap. It just sounds really, really crap. There was people. Like, for people who haven't been to an air show, go to an air show and you will see exactly what I'm talking about when I say the game is missing the roar of the planes, and they really have made a boo-boo with that. Because for me, someone that likes fighter jets, one of the big appeals, and anyone who loves fighter jets will agree with me, is the roar and the sound of the planes themselves. That's what gives it that wow factor, that awe that you find when you're watching these fighter jets fly by. That's the roar I'm talking about. That is what is missing from the game. Can you see what I mean? The difference now between that, real life, and what the game produces. So moving on to mechanics, guys. In this game, you get a story mode and multiplayer. Multiplayer I haven't touched, so I won't talk about that. So in story mode, you start off with the basic jet, which I believe is the F4. And as you complete these missions, you gain credits which you can spend on newer, better planes and modifications like improved missiles, tighter turning circle and higher top speed, etc. You can apply these to any planes, although you do get limited slots to apply these upgrades, which you gain by spending your credits. Now, you gain these credits, basically that's based on your performance throughout each mission, i.e. things like damage taken and the number of enemies you've killed. So, for example, if you've taken out 20 enemy planes and you've taken no damage, you're going to get more credits than if you took out 5 enemy planes and took a lot, like 50% damage. Also, during flight, you can switch between standard long-range air-to-air missiles, or you can use a special weapon, which you do select before each mission, which normally have some sort of special attribute. For example, one of them may be that your missile, you can fire 4 missiles off at once and take out 4 planes at the same time. You can also change camera views from external to cockpit to front tip view. I do prefer the external view personally, purely for visual reasons. I like to see the plane I'm flying. Same reason with sort of like first person shooters when they do customization. What's the point of customization when you can't see what the character you're using? The same with these planes. What's the point of having such great looking planes if you're going to be in the cockpit? But you do get people out there that do prefer the cockpit view for the immersion and the realism. Me personally, I like the external view. Now, once unlocked, you can select from a vast amount of planes, from classics such as the F-14 Tomcat and the F-16 Fighting Falcon, to modern day hits like the Eurofighter Typhoon and the F-35 Lightning. Now, once a mission is completed, you can then use it for a free flight where there will be no enemies or objectives, just the open air and the environment and the plane of your choice. To be honest, I have tried this a few times. It's great for 5 minutes, but it gets boring very, very fast because the environments aren't exactly brimming with, it's not like an open world brimming with activity going on. It's just literally you're flying around just for the visual part of it. You can also, whilst during combat, you can also lock on, fire missiles and use your manual guns. Basically the basics of any fighter jet aircraft. So they're mainly the most of the mechanics, guys. I would have missed a couple, but it's not a loads of mechanics on this. I mean, for example, the credits, it's the credit system and the sort of extras you get for your planes is like basically the skill tree. So now I'm going to move on to gameplay. Controlling of the aircraft is okay, although the camera does slide off angle when you turn, which is slightly annoying. So as you turn, the camera sort of does this weird angle thing, which you have to adjust when you straighten up to straighten up. Also, you can't pivot on an axis like in real life, on the plane's axis, turning at 90-degree angles without it turning on the world axis. For example, a plane in real life, when flying straight along, is able to fly and then pivot on its axis at 90-degree angles, similar to a barrel roll, but it's not a barrel roll. It's just pivoting on its axis without it actually turning in the world axis. I've said axis a few times, but there you go. In terms of realism, I can't really comment on when flying during missions because I'm not a fighter pilot, but replays, they do look realistic in terms of the movement. It does look realistic, so I'm assuming they've got that nailed in terms of how the plane moves in combat. The combat itself is excellent. The manoeuvring and chasing down an enemy plane is extremely satisfying, especially as you fly by a plane you've just hit with a missile and it's exploding within your screen and you're just flying past it. Although I would prefer, with this game, with each mission, that if you took control of the takeoff and landings every time rather than starting in midair through a mission. It really frustrates me that I'm more immersive if I'm taxiing, taking off and landing at the same time rather than just not doing any of that. Because to me, that is realism. That gives you immersed, that gives you pumped up that you're about to embark on a mission rather than just starting in midair. I mean, that chitter-chatter that I was talking about in the sound, that could be done whilst you're taxiing. Does that make sense? Taxiing and taking off and the landing. So I just think that's something they really need to look at and adjust that for future games. So overall, I would say that Ace Combat 7, Skies Unknown, is definitely worth buying and playing through. It's easier for me being a fighter jet enthusiast. It definitely helps the fact that I know the planes and I know what I'm looking at, and that's why I like the game mainly. For people who don't, you will still really enjoy the combat side. Story's a bit confusing, but the combat side is definitely a great game to play. But I would prefer it in future. I would prefer it if they could just try real life environments and real life places rather than a fictional made up Eurasia, Oceania and all this sort of stuff. That's where I get lost in the story. Just use real life places for once and real life airports. That would be absolutely fantastic. That's what would make this game superb. Anyway, guys, that has been my review for So guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. That is the end. If you do like my content, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and also click that notification bell to stay bang up to date with when I upload a video. Also, please check out my previous video on Batman Arkham Asylum, which is up on your screen right now. So that is me saying goodbye. Hope you enjoy your days and weeks, and I will see you soon. Bye.